Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. 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 बोलिए श्री कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। कृष्ण मुरारी जय कृष्ण मुरारी। 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 मुरलीधर पीतांबर धारी। मुरलीधर पीतांबर धारी। मुरलीधर पीतांबर धारी। मुरलीधर पीतांबर धारी। माई मीरा प्रभु गिरिधारी। 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 कृष्ण मुरारी जय कृष्ण मुरारी। 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 वृंदावन गोवर्धन धारी। वृंदावन गोवर्धन धारी।
Hari Om everyone. Can you all hear me and see me clearly? Awesome. Hope and pray that all of you are doing well. Today is a beautiful topic, that which we will be delving in, and it is with regards to self-realization, Atma Sakshatkar. So we will be going through the chapter. So we'll start with 3 Oms Sahana Bhavatu Guru Brahma and then jump straight into the topic. There are some older members that have come back. Hari Om to you. And there are newer members that have just joined. Welcome to you too. Good to see all of you. Okay, let's begin. Just before beginning, I just remembered the format in which this whole thing happens is I go through the entire chapter, and if you have any questions, I'm sure you should. The next session will be your questions and my answers. So in the group, in the Signal group, you will post your questions by Wednesday or Thursday. You get the opportunity to listen to this talk again and format your questions and get them to me. That way I can get to you on Sunday with all the answers. The week after that will be my questions to you. So since you are listening to this chapter, you should have a good clarity, and based on what I speak and what is in the text, you will have the questions and you will be randomly picked and you will be answering. There will be about 18 to 20 questions. It will be given to you by Wednesday. You can prep and come. So that way, it's not like on the spot and shoot the questions. It is a prep time given, and that way you will feel confident to go on air. And oh yeah, all of this will be live on YouTube. So just letting you know. Cool? Good. Let's begin now. सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. There are 4 purusharthas that are mentioned in our scriptures. Purusha, purushasya artha. Purusha means the individual, and to bring a sense of meaningfulness, artha, sense of meaningfulness through the entire life, there are 4 aspects that have been understood: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Dharma, understanding what is, I'm trying to put it in a very simple way. There are 54 shades of meaning for this word, dharma, and that in itself is a huge topic. In the most simplistic manner, dharma means to know the field of responsibilities and to live fulfilling those responsibilities, and to such one then comes the rights. Once you fulfill your responsibilities, then come your rights. To understand the balance of these responsibilities and rights is to live a life of dharma. So in that you can also include live and let live, wherein as much as it is your dharma to live, it should not be causing hindrance to other beings in their fulfillment of responsibilities as well as their rights. So that is dharmic way of life. Then comes, in this dharmic mode of mindset, we need to make a meaningful profession, passion, lifestyle through which I can earn a living. And in order to make that a possibility, there is the first 25 years of our life during the Brahmacharya ashrama. We go through the learning and equipping ourselves with skill sets, educating ourselves, and practicing all the nobler values through which this artha has to be earned. And as Adi Shankaracharya ji puts it in Bhajagovindam, one should also know how to cherish and enjoy this wealth. That wealth has to be earned through dharmic methods, and also should become the pillar of support for dharma in the society, so that our next generations can also prosper. And one should know how to enjoy that wealth as well. Vittam tena vinodaya chittam. One should be able to cherish it as well. Now through that, there are several kama desires. The purpose of this is to understand, is to not create more of desires, but to be able to create an avenue for those vasanas which are already there, which become amplified as desires and which express as the actions. So these desires are the louder expression into action, and one should find a method to channelize them. That these desires have to be dharmic in nature, and their fulfillment also should be dharmic in nature. It is not to procreate more of these desires, but the existing layers of vasana has to be diluted and to a point be removed from its root cause from our system. Now, these three are very common, and one has to learn how to deal with it. When the attitude of karma yoga is introduced into the matrix of all of these to be accomplished, dharma, artha, kama, the attitude is twofold. One, to be able to dedicate it to the highest altar, which is the altar of divine or Ishtadevata. And the second is to perform that with complete selflessness. Now with this attitude, when we are expressing our vasanas, where that which is not dharmic, we are uprooting it. And that which is dharmic, we are expressing it in such a way that it is dedicated act at the highest altar with selflessness. Supposing there are vasanas of, say, anger or greed or jealousy, these have to be uprooted right at the root cause. One has to learn how intelligently we can remove that. And those which are the talents, potential, skill sets and vasanas express as them, we express it in such a way that it is Atmano Mokshaya Jagat Hitaya Cha, that it helps us deplete these vasanas and we can gain the space within within the antakarana, within the inner equipment, we develop the ability to create space for ourselves, a cleaner space. Standing in that stability of cleaner space within, a purified antakarana, that mind is now available for turning its attention towards highest, the supreme, which is the fourth purushartha, which is the moksha purushartha. Before we can go into the subject itself, one clarity that should be there is, for lack of better word, we often find people deliberating it or translating it as this moksha as the desire for liberation. So one gets confused that earlier we had desires, which is called kama. Now we are talking about desire for moksha. Isn't that also a desire? As I said, moksha is a separate category in its own, of its own, and it is not to be misunderstood as a desire, because desire is usually twofold. That which I do not have, I need to procure. That which I already have, to secure, so that I can cherish it whenever I want, however I want. So I see somebody carrying iPhone, what now, 13, 15, whatever number it is. So it looks cool. It also can connect with your iWatch, then the whatever those plugins into your ear, and it connects with your shoes, it connects with your bag, it connects with your I don't know where all it connects. It's cool. So they are carrying it. Now I need to have it. So once I need it, then the first thing that I do is put a cover to it, so that if it falls, if it is protected. So that which I do not have, I want to procure. That which I already have, I need to secure. Moksha is not one such desire, because I am not trying to procure or acquire. I am not trying to create. It is already my nature, and I am just trying to be aware of it. So there are, in simplicity, maybe I'm putting it in too simplistic way, there are two steps, if I can put it, for a prepared mind, for a antakarana which is purified, which has gotten that stability. There are two steps. What are the two steps? The two steps are to remove the cloud of confusion in the intellect. It's like there is a cloudy day, there is sun, but the clouds are covering it. As soon as there is a gentle breeze, the clouds are removed. That which already is the sun, it is revealed. Similarly, the clouds of confusion of the antakarana, especially the intellect, those doubts, those questions, those queries have to be quelled, they have to be put aside with proper answers. Otherwise, they keep popping up, just like the popcorn when it is heated. Especially when you want to sit down and close your eyes to meditate, all these questions will start popping up. So they have to be prior answered. That cloud of confusion has to be removed. Once that cloud of confusion is removed, then the intellect has this understanding that it comes to. What is the understanding? That which I am clearly seeing in the intellect as the reflection, if this is the reflection, then there should be a source. That source which is reflected into this intellect is my true nature. Now, the moment that is heard and listened by the student, realization happens. Atma Jnana happens. Unlike many of the movies or various other, suddenly there is realization, means there is colorful aura that is emitted out, and suddenly you start levitating and your eyes go in some mudra, and then there is sudden halo around you, and you let's get out of that. A simple example that comes in Mahabharata is Karna comes to face with Kunti Devi just before the war, because Karna wants to know who his biological parents are. And Bhagavan Krishna sends Karna with the idea that Kunti Devi definitely knows. Have an audience with her and your doubts will be clarified. Now he is speculating it, no, she knows, or is she the one? And the way Krishna puts it, ask her who is her first son. That makes the total of her children as 6. Who is that? So he goes and he says, O Kunti Devi, who is your firstborn? And in answer she says, a very technical answer she gives, Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. As soon as he realizes, as soon as he hears that there is nothing to be created, nothing to be acquired, nothing to be, mixed, to suddenly, that which he already is. There is a revelation that is happening that you are that. Now, what he does after learning it is a completely different story. But the realization that I am the first son of this Kunti Devi and she is my biological mother. That understanding immediately happens. As soon as he hears Tattvam Asi, that thou art, as soon as he hears, there is no sudden aura of lights that go out and then suddenly he starts levitating and then he is spinning around. There is no such gadbad happening. It's a very clear understanding that, I happen to be that. Similarly, when we go to the Guru, and here also, going to a Guru, it is with humility. In Mundaka Upanishad, there is a very beautiful approach that has been said, that the students go with dry twigs in their hands. Somebody translated, it must be because Gurukula needs a lot of firewood. So you go with these dry twigs, they are like your immediate contribution to that. No, there's a deeper significance to that. The deeper significance is that the Shishya says that I have had my way with the world. I have run around everything. I have come to a dead end, that which I am seeking, that which I want to experience, nothing from this world can give it to me. Therefore, there is the Vairagya, just like this dry twig, if you break it, it breaks. There is no moisture in it. The moisture of samsara, the rasa for samsara, has evaporated. With my due diligence, I have now come with absolutely no distraction from that world or worldliness. Just like these dry twigs. I have come unto your feet. I seek that refuge to understand this knowledge. Please point that knowledge to me. Then the Guru says, if you go by the Prashnopanishad, the Guru says, do seva for 2 years. And after that, if you still have any questions, then ask. If I know, I will let you know. Today's intellect that we carry, we would start calculating 2 years of service with no pay. And if after all of that, when I ask questions, if he ends up saying that, oops, sorry dude, I do not know the answer, then all this effort is gone for waste. Because the teacher has to understand the student has to understand the teacher, the rapport has to be established, and then there is this dialogue that happens. As it is said even in Bhagavad Gita, pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. So there is that shravana happens. If the student is actually ready with the basic qualifications, which in Tattva Bodha and various other texts, even in Vivek Chudamani, it is elaborated that the basic qualification that the student requires for that Shravana to seep in is Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadamadi, Shat Sampatti, and Mumukshutva. Viveka, a clear discriminatory intellect. Then Vairagya, the result of that Viveka should always be Vairagya. Vairagya, dispassion towards all the distractions. Then the internal makeup of the Antakarana should be that it should be endowed with Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam. I will post the link on these from the Tattva Bodha lectures. You can listen to that. And then the intensity is towards finding liberation, finding the moksha, to be able to withdraw from all this worldliness and to establish myself in my true nature. Because at the end of the day, at the end of several lives, we come to that point, the jiva comes to that point of understanding that I have tried everything else to find that sense of, there are three things that most of us, all of us are looking, sentient beings are looking for. A sense of stability and security, sense of peace, and a sense of joy, preferably that which is unshakable, inexhaustible. That which, if it is failing at every corner, then it again adds to the instability. But I need something which is permanent. A permanent sense of stability and security, peace and happiness. And the intensity is that I want this come what may. This is my priority. And when Vivek Chudamani, Adi Shankaracharya ji says in the first 3 to 5 shlokas that this human life, it is the rarest of the rare, that the human intellect has evolved to that point wherein it seeks nothing other than this moksha. So then the Guru teaches, guides. There is a deliberation of dialogue. The entire Upanishadic knowledge is focused only on this aspect of fourth Purushartha, which is the moksha. Upanishad focuses only on that. The rest of the Shruti, rest of the Smriti, rest of the Itihasa talk about Dharma, Artha, Kama elaborately. You go to Bhagavatam, you go to Mahabharata, you go to the Apastamba Sutras, Grahya Sutras, they clearly tell at what intersection of life, what kind of responsibilities, what should be your dharmic way of approach. Dharma, Artha, Kama is discussed elaborately there. Upanishads do not go into that three aspects, but they focus only on the fourth one, which is moksha sadhana. So this Upanishad, what does it talk about? This Atma Jnana, which Arjuna also asks Bhagavan. In the second chapter itself, he asks, Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava sthitadih kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha. Let me understand this Sthita Pragnatva that you have been talking about, O Bhagavan. How does one understand that I am realized or not? Have I reached there or not? Who is it that is realized? Can you explain in detail? Then the next 18 set of shlokas, the last set until the 78th shloka, what we see is the Sthita Prajna Lakshana, the man of self-realization. Here, when I say man of self-realization, don't please stand up, say woman of self-realization, what about them? When I say man, it is the individual who seeks this realization. Finally, when they abide in their true nature, how do they interact? How do they look? How do they establish themselves? How do they interact with the world outside? That is given a clear, deep analysis in the second chapter. Now, this person of steady wisdom, let me put it this way. There was once, Gurudev was speaking in Ernakulam. Ernakulam is the place where Puja Gurudev has spent his younger days up until the time where he left for Lucknow for his higher studies. Then from there into freedom movement, from there into being a journalist, and then finding Shivananji, and he became Balakrishna Menon, became Swami Chinmayananda, and as Chinmayananda, for the first time, he is coming to Ernakulam, his hometown, to speak as a realized master. Now, all his friends that he has grown up with, he has done mischief and masti with, they are all now, dude, do you know, our Balakutti Menon, that fellow has become a big thing now. Everybody is talking. He is also now giving lectures, it seems. He was the one that would lead us to all mischief, and then he would be the one we lectured upon. Now he has come back. Let's go meet. So in his busy schedule, they missed him couple of times, 3-4 times, because he was busy, taking a shower, or busy gone for bhiksha, or gone for lecture. So finally they come and meet him. And people have some peculiar questions. They're like, don't tell me that people prostrate to you. What is so special? You also eat, you also sleep, you also take shower, you also do the same things. What is the difference between you and us? We don't see any difference. Then how come people claim that you are a realized one? So Gurudev, in his own unique style, he said, the only difference is when I am taking a shower, I am only engaged in that activity. My mind is not going here or there. It is in perfect balance. When I am eating, I am focused only in that. Usually what happens when we are engaged in an activity, even now when you are listening to this activity, you are constantly looking at your watch. You're like, oh my God, it is only half an hour. I have to sit here for another half an hour. I'm already hungry. CST it is 7 to 8, but in the EST it is not the same. There is a lot of thoughts that keep happening. Or if you have some pending project or some homework or some interview or something that you have to prepare for, it's weighing heavy. Those thoughts are running. We are not in the same place at the same time with the same mindset, dedicating our inner equipoise to that particular action where we are engaged in. So Gurudev says that I put my head where my hands are. My mind is not running here and there. I am composed, I am here, and it is in perfect balance. That is the only difference. Whereas the unprepared mind is like a porcupine poking all different directions possible and more, and it is not in one uniform direction, it is never in balance. Smallest things can agitate us, smallest things can throw us off balance. So, a realized person, their mind is equipoised, their mind is not thrown here or there, it is very composed, it is yoked, it is in complete yoga. Bhagavad Gita very beautifully explains this yoga. Bhagavan says, Samatvam yoga uchyate. Being in equipoised environment constantly, consistently is called yoga. How can we reach to that point of equipoisedness? Always keep lying down, shavasana, the best position. Somebody said, I have to learn yoga, Swamiji. I said, you mean the yoga asanas? I said, yes. He said, you are an expert at it. Why do you want to learn from anybody? What do you mean? I said, every night for 8 hours you practice nothing but shavasana. When I'm not engaged in the outside world of activities as my responsibilities, fulfilling them, I am just, say, withdrawn, lying down, I'm in balance. But when the world of activities begin, I am thrown all over the place. It is to say, like if somebody were to claim that, oh, I can drive the vehicle amazingly well in the parking lot. So I tell them, please inform me which road are you taking. I would not dare step in that road ever. Why? Because if your sense of balance in driving is only limited to the parking lot, it is the unknown variables which get thrown at you when you're driving on the roads. To find the sense of balance wherein nothing of the inside or the outside distract you, disturb you, that is when you are an expert. I tell you, one of the most high tension jobs, at least in my opinion, is of that individual who comes to evaluate every new punk that comes, say, claiming that I know how to drive a car. Because 1 year ago I got the permit, now I think I know, and they have to evaluate them, sit with them, not knowing how that fellow will drive on the real roads, the road testing. They have to have amazing courage, because they're sitting with somebody who you have to evaluate so that you come to know if they know driving or not, and you're doing it while they're driving. Yo. And they test them. And the testing is not in a parking lot, it is in real life scenario. Similarly, this man of knowledge, when we say it is the inner equipoise, samatvam yoga uchyate, that is only half the definition. The other half of the definition is when is this equipoise? When are we talking about it? When we are in the field of action, delivering our responsibilities. When we are delivering our responsibilities, there are umpteen factors, the inside world, the outside world. There is a constant rupture, friction that is happening. I want it certain way, the world wants it certain way, it is pulling me, pushing me. In and through all of that, to find a sense of balance and be able to execute, remaining in that balance in spite of all the possible distractions that could be distracting. to still maintain that sense of balance. If anybody is a dancer here, there is a classical dance form called Kuchipudi. In that Kuchipudi, there is something called, experts do that. They have a plate, a brass plate, and they stand on that while carrying the 3 pots on their head, and it is not like tied to their chin. It is delicately placed, and they have to balance that while being on the plate, and then they dance around. A similar balance when we talk about when facing the world and yet maintaining that equanimity. So Samatvam Yoga Uchyate is one half of the definition. The other half of the definition is Karmasu Kaushalam. How should that execution of our responsibilities in the world outside be? In complete dexterity, with finesse. Most of the time what happens, when we are trying to maintain the equipoiseness, the activity goes for a toss. It comes out haphazard. If we focus on the activity, the inner balance is gone. I'll give you an example. Pretty soon we have to start these CHYK classes where, in Dallas, there were a lot of chicks that would come and participate in person, while there is a online session that happens for the rest of all of you who join. So after the discourse is done, then all the chicks and myself, we would assemble in the house, the kutia that I'm living in, and we cook a meal, dinner. So everybody wants to participate. Everybody has to be given a task or a job. So knives and cutting boards and everything. For a consistent uniform cooking of that, whatever fry or dal, whatever it is, if I say that, you have to cut it in this particular shape and size, this potato or this vegetable or whatever it is. There are some who want the speed, the output of it fast. What goes for a toss is the balance and consistency. If I ask them to maintain the balance and consistency, then the work that they are executing takes hours. So who do you call an expert? Is a person who can express the whole action of responsibility in a very dexterous with finesse in the shortest time possible while maintaining inner equipoise. An expert. Like when you see, I cannot but take this example. When you see Federer play on the field, what amount of rigorous practice he must have done. The first time I saw him, actually, I still remember it, that he went all the way to the net and dropped a volley. The other opponent tossed the ball all the way back to the baseline. So Federer runs back, and as he is running, he crosses the ball. He doesn't have time to flip around, turn around, and then hit it back. So as he is running, he crosses the ball and taps it with his left hand. With a racket, he just taps it. What amazed me was it went all across to the other corner, unreachable corner for the opponent, and it falls right around the corner precisely where the line ends. It is inside the court, but in that corner. I thought it was a fluke. But as I started seeing his game, Quite often he does that. That with expertise, he puts it right in that corner. How much amount of practice, how much amount of agility that individual should have to make it look so simple. I also tried once. To catch up with the ball itself was a big task. I was huffing and puffing. Then I tried. Luckily, it was on my right side, and I tried flicking it the way I had seen the great Federer do it. So I know how it, the mechanics of it. But I don't have the practice, so I flicked it. And the inner cricketer in me, which that is how I have grown up. So the inner cricketer in me woke up, and instead of going the other side of the net, the ball went to the other side of the fence. In cricket commentary, they will say, "Or ye laga chhakka," that it went for a boundary. But I'm not playing cricket. It has to go to the other side. It's not that easy. But how does he make it look so seamlessly easy? Where it has the finesse, and there is a sense of balance. There's a sense of dignity in what is being done. Now, similarly, with all aspects of life, that inner equipoise, inner balance, and the dexterity with which they perform. That is one sure shot method to understand if I am proceeding towards that self-realization. Now, the second aspect of it is, for us to be compassionate, to be loving, is an effort. Because our compassion and love, it is channelized due to some habits. There are certain places with certain people, the love and compassion is quite genuinely free-flowing. But it is not consistent. It depends on the person, it depends on the person's mood, it depends on your mood, it depends on the environment, the appropriateness. And that is when a loving smile, a loving gesture, a compassionate that can express. But for a realized master, the expression is seamlessly effortless for them. How so? So in the Narayana Suktam, there is a statement that the experience of that divine is Antar Bahischa Tat Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Sthitaha Antaha Bahihi Sarvam Yetat Kinchit Narayanamayam Eva. That everything that which is inside and outside is nothing but divine. That supreme alone is the experience. That supreme which I am is what is this expansion, the substratum of this expansion is expressing as. Now how does one understand this even? With respect to our own physical body, we are spread all across it, right? We are uniformly there, head to toe. That if somebody touches my head and the toe at the same time, I'm aware of it at the same time. It's not like, wait a second, I'm busy with the touch at the head. Let me finish that, then I'll come and focus on this. No, at the same time, I'm aware of both of this. How? Because I alone am all across. Similarly, when this realization happens, This Atma Chaitanya, this conscious principle that I am, which I am abiding in, this conscious principle alone is the substratum, that which is expressing in these different names and forms. So how do they see the entire world? As their own self-expanding. Now supposing you have an abscess or a cut, a very bad cut on your hand, and you have to take the local transit, you get into the bus. The rest of your body is constantly trying to protect that particular part from any kind of outside external. You're being compassionate to that part, right? You're taking care of that particular part. It becomes natural. Similarly, the compassion, love, care for the entire world becomes uniform. Why? It is me alone that is expanding across, expressing as these different names and forms. And what is one thing that we don't ever do? Self-harm. The moment I understand, here the definition of self is from the absolute sense. When I see that it is the same self that is expanding and expressing as these names and forms, all that which naturally flows towards the self is the most pure form of love, care, compassion. Because the understanding is that everything that is nothing but that supreme in which I am abided in, which is my true nature. Antar bahishya tat sarvam vyapya narayana sthitah. There are several examples that can be given. One from Mahabharata is all the Durvasa and his 1,000 students come as guests, unannounced guests to the Pandavas, where they have just finished their dinner. Draupadi Devi has just washed and cleaned everything. Now we all know Durvasa. You do something, he is angry. You don't, he is angry. You neglect, he is angry. You pay attention, he is angry. He is the most difficult one to handle. So Kunti Devi is, not Kunti Devi, Draupadi Devi is very agitated. She prays to Bhagwan. Bhagwan appears. They both have a satellite phone, I think, with them. As soon as she calls, he appears. So he appears and says, I understand your situation. Check the bowl. If there is even a grain of what you had prepped, if it is available. Bhagwan eats it and he says, I am now thoroughly satiated. In me, the whole world that exists, may it be satiated. So all these Durvasa students and Durvasa come and they say, we'll just take rest. We don't want any food. We had announced that we'll come and partake food, but we feel very content. We feel very satiated. We don't feel hungry at all. And that is story number one. The other story is of great saints like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa or Ramana Maharshi, where in their presence we have seen, especially Ramana Maharshi ji, they say that in his presence there were natural enemies, biological enemies, like the rat or the squirrel and the snake coexist peacefully. Like Tom and Jerry in the most meditative equipoise. It's not just that they are in that equipoise, in their presence, everybody else also becomes attuned to that equipoise state of being. We experience that with Gurudev as well. Mind would become so calm. that after I used to step out of and get into the bus back to the place where I live, I would remember all the questions that I had for him. It was like magic. Like in his presence, mind would be so calm that I would even forget my pertinent questions that I had for him. So I developed a plan. I said, let me write these questions down, have the entire set of questions. The next time I see him, I will not be under the spell of this magic that I'll forget it. I will nail these questions. One of my famous questions was on, the reason I say famous question is how I was shut down after that. I went through entire self-unfoldment, especially the last chapter where there is vasana. Vasana leads to karma. Karma leads to vasana. Vasana leads to karma. There is this cycle. So I thought I broke I found the flaw in this logic. So I went to him. I said, the very first being, very first time, was it vasana or karma? Whatever be the answer, the moment he says that it is vasana or karma, that itself is a flaw in the logic. So I thought I nailed it. So this time let Gurudev come, I am going to nail it. I went with all these questions. I would forget. I would write it down and keep it in my pocket. I would forget. I would forget that I have questions for him in my pocket. Then I used to write it down on my hand. You have questions. So that when I see my hand, I remember that I have to ask. Otherwise, mind becomes so calm. I'm not talking about being dull. Mind is alert. Mind is awake. Mind is cheerful. Very calm. It happens, right? Some people that when you interact or you come in their presence, all sorts of agitations begin. Some people that you come in their presence, you feel that calmness, cheerfulness in presence of these Mahatmas. This is the experience, because they experience nothing. There is no sense of otherness in them because they see nothing but that oneness and the expansion of the self alone, expressing in all the names and forms that they are interacting with, inside out. Now, let me go into a topic which is not touched upon here in this particular chapter, but which will make a more meaningful sense for us. I just realized it is 7:58. Let me try to quickly cover that. There is a misnomer that one has to meditate to realize. No, you don't meditate to realize. For the realization to happen, to realize my own true nature, Shravanam is the only way. Mananam removes all the doubts, the cloudiness in our intellect. Mananam does not lead to realization, is only Shravanam. Nididhyasana or meditation, what does it do? See, we have been this jiva for millions and millions of countless lives. Several kinds of formats and expressions that we have had. So there is this habitual error of being identified with this body, mind and intellect, with our own likes, dislikes and vasanas, so deeply embedded. Aneka janma samprapta karma bandha. This comes in Guru Stotram. That several lives worth impressions, that we have this habitual error to behave as a limited being. Behave as our own erroneous perceptions, habitual errors. There are these habitual errors of anxiety, habitual errors of fear, habitual errors of various such negativities that even though I know that I am that Atma Chaitanya, I keep getting pulled into these erroneous perceptions out of habit. To remove these layers, one needs to identify all these different layers that agitate me personally, and to each one of them find an antidote, not anecdote, antidote in the Upanishadic wisdom, and we meditate upon those Upanishadic wisdom to remove these erroneous perceptions and the hold that they have on our intellect. Once that is prashamita, once that has become silenced, the mind available, the intellect doubts are removed, such a mind is absorbed into the self by the self without any distractions. Once those erroneous perceptions have been removed, have been worked at, such an individual, while walking, talking, functioning in common day-to-day activities, they still are not losing that sense of balance from within. Such ones are the Atmagnani, self-realized great masters. So I'll stop here, read through the entire chapter for the ones that have joined us. This is the version of self-unfoldment that we are studying. There are several versions. There is a newer edition after this. So we are not studying that. We are studying this version of it. We are in the 17th chapter, I believe, the self-realization. So please study that chapter. And if you have any questions, this particular chapter should have all kinds of questions that can go bonkers. So please feel free to nail me down with all your questions. And let's see. Let's have a good, interesting question answer session next week. Looking forward for that. Let's wind down today and say our Shanti Patha. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Take care, everyone. See you next week with your questions, hopefully with my answers.